Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brainwashed to be Broke, the show where we call out all the lies, all the beliefs, all the scripts that we've been taught since our young age, and what is truly possible. Today, we are here with another amazing guest. His name is Adam. I'm really excited to have him here. He is a high performance coach and sales leader based in Colorado, helping people build high performing teams and lives through practical systems and consistent action. So I'm super pumped to have him here. For those who don't know you, what is your claim to fame? Is that what I mean? Like, what are you known for?
Yeah. I don't know that I have a claim to fame. I think I actually have maybe almost like distinct parts of me that I think different people know me for different things. So I've been in technology, like software space for most of my career, leading revenue teams, sales teams, customer
Hmm.
success teams, etc. So lots of people know me as a leader, as a leadership coach. I have I've been a writer for a long time, so I've written for probably, I don't know, coming up on 15 years or so. So a lot of people know me through my writing. I've written to, my email list have been as big as 50 some thousand people getting my emails on a daily basis. So I have a lot of people that know me through that. Um, and then there's kind of the fitness side of my world. I used to own a fitness technology company called Bodeefit, and we had about 500,000 users from 26 countries all over the world, and we would do fitness retreats and all sorts of fun stuff. And so a lot of people know me through that. So it depends on the way in which people are introduced to me, but those are maybe some of the main ways.
Very interesting. Okay, so tech, writing, fitness, interesting combination. Okay, so very cool. Well, let's start with a little bit different direction before we jump into those type of topics, because like for sure, like most of the people starting with this type of topics and going deeper, but I would love to take it from different direction. Um, what is your true driving source when it comes to business? Like all your success, what is the driving source? Like, is it um, hunger for freedom? Is it like changing the world, or is it religion, or what is it for you?
Yeah. I think that's changed a lot over time,
Mm-hmm.
as you might expect, like for most of us. I think when I was, let's call it like early 20s, mid 20s, I very much anchored on like impacting the world. Very much wanted to live a life that looked different than the typical life. And a lot of that came from, it did not come from like my family upbringing. My parents were both kind of very typical of folks my parents' age, where they, both of them, worked for the same organization their entire career. So my dad
Mm-hmm.
was at the largest private engineering firm in the world for 44 years, and my mom was a social worker for her entire career. So I kind of watched them lead, let's just call it like single path careers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I grew up around. But my best friend growing up, his name was Jordan. He just saw the world differently. He like was ambitious. He was always coming up with different ideas, wanting to start stuff. Um, and we ended up actually starting a company together in college. Um, he unfortunately passed away the night of my college graduation party, which is its own story. But he like very much imprinted on me this idea of like, hey, life can look a lot of different ways. Like, have fun with it, be curious, be passionate. Um, we made business cards for his funeral, and on the back they said, "Live life with passion." So that kind of imprinting has always stayed with me. So I think for a long time it was very much like do something different, look different, be different, do something impactful. Um, that's largely what led me to start Bodeefit. Um, I think as I've gotten older, I'm 41 now. I think my motivations come from one, like doing things I'm uniquely positioned to do, like writing as an example. Like I'm a relatively skilled writer. I love reaching people through the written word. I love using writing as a medium to like work through challenging topics. And I love knowing that it impacts people. Like every time I write something, I get an endless amount of emails of the impact that those words had on somebody. And there's like nothing more fulfilling for me than that. I think at a personal level, like autonomy is very important to me. Autonomy of my time, of my day to day. Like I need to have control over my time. Um, and just being curious, like even as a sales leader, like the folks I would recruit were, I would look for curiosity first and foremost, because to me it's like the most useful human trait is like if you can be curious about something, you can go learn about it, you can go deep dive on it, you can build a skill around it. And so I think where I struggle mostly with people that like have lost that kind of spark of curiosity, that sense of wonder. And so that's kind of what I try to cling on to in my 41-year-old body.
Well, yeah, like being curious is it's so interesting. Like it's like I cannot imagine me not being curious about so many things and all the time like discovering different like this is like the blood of my life pretty much. Like I cannot imagine to just stop. Yeah, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
there's too much wonder in the world to ignore it all. Like down to the
Yeah.
simplicity of going on a walk and, you know, literally like you can sit there and watch bugs in the grass or watch the birds in the trees, and stuff as small as that reminds me of like, wow, we live in a pretty amazing place with all this stuff going on around us, all this life going on around us, stuff we don't even understand how it works. Um, but we get so narrowly focused on me, my problems, what's directly in front of me, and we lose that sense of wonder. So I use like the natural world around me a lot to remind me like, oh yeah, we live in a
Interesting.
pretty incredible place.
Okay. That's really interesting. Like, okay, what have you been always this way? Or like have you found a way like during like, during your the ups and downs, like that you've been looking for some type of like place that you can like slow down and like literally because like enjoy the life also like really be like, just because most people like most people, especially these days, they just like pursuing the next shiny object or something that is like it's so many things that you can go for and like study and test and learn, but people get disconnected. I believe like in from what actually happening like in their life, right? I don't know, like do you have kids? Do you have your
Yeah.
family? Okay,
Yeah, I have
so
3
because
kids.
this
Yep.
really cool. Really cool. Well, congrats on that. I'm 30 nearly, and I don't have kids yet. But it's like, it's a time. Like it's the time, but we'll see. Yeah,
You won't regret if that day does come.
yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Well, yeah. So back to that. Was it like, have you been always this way, or have you figured it out like along the way during like, when you had so many things going on to like, get like little bit like grounded, I would say, even like, get into like just observe things, like get little bit slow down and so on, or when did you actually, figure this out?
It's a good question. I don't know that I have a great answer for it. I've always been pretty ambitious, and I think for a long time I channeled that ambition into success, what
Right.
financial success,
Yep. Yeah.
career ladder, Even doing like
Most people
entrepreneur.
does, right? Like most people does. Like
Yeah.
literally, like you are lacking something in your young age, or like like when you are growing up or something like, and then you are pursuing it and like fully, like fully, um, embody this type of like the success that you want to achieve. This, you want to change the path.
Yeah.
So I believe like I've been the same way.
Yeah.
Literally, like I think I'm still the same way, like still on that path, and just like I haven't found the true like the purpose even. I don't know if it call it purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, for one, I think that's normal. I think I think most of us are wired to channel our ambition into maybe worldly success when we're
Yeah.
20s, 30s. Um, I think personally, I think that's by design. I think that's when
Mm,
we um, have the least responsibilities, we have the most energy and focus, and like that is a good place to channel it because at the end of the day, like we still have to build skills, we still have to build like competencies. And I think 20s and 30s are like this kind of time period in our career where like we just put a lot of our energy into that kind of outward success, and there's a lot of benefits to it. Um, I think most of our paths look something like that work starts to turn inward at some point where we
mm,
say, well, what does the best version of me look like? You know, because you, if I just use myself as an example, like I've had a very successful career as a leader in technology, and you get to kind of these higher rungs of the proverbial ladder, and you're like, I don't actually like this. Like have spent so many years like chasing this, and you get it, and then it's the typical story of like, oh, this is not actually that fulfilling. And I think
yeah.
that's so many of our stories, maybe by design, and then we go inward. And I think if you look at even like psychology, this is just almost like a common trope, especially for males, where it's like you kind of reach your mid 30s or 40s and you just start to go, what is the point of all of this? And you look inward a lot and you start to try to develop kind of that inner compass a lot more. And so I would say my path has been very similar to that. For me personally, I have some, like a few kind of personal tragedies that I think make it easier to reframe the world around me. Because I think when you
Mm,
go through very difficult things, like it puts everything else in perspective.
mm,
So I've had what maybe you'd call like the benefit of that, of
yep.
um, being able to put things in perspective. Um, so have I always been like that? Like parts of me, like I've always been amazed by a sunrise and a sunset. I've always looked at mountains and the ocean and been at peace because they make me feel small, and I like feeling small.
Mm,
But I think, you know, just the older I've gotten, the more the attention has gone from like, what's the outward success I want to pursue
right.
and portray, to like, who am I at my core? How do I want to
Mm,
show up each day?
yeah, yeah. There is a lot of like this type of um I don't know if it's a misconceptions, but like the beliefs that people are inheriting, like when it comes to like caring about others' opinions and so on, right? Like straight up from like this is the way that it's basically designed, right? Because like it's all pointing to actually care about those things, right? Especially like specific, like you there is bunch of them. Like first thing that actually like came up to my mind is like when you are in the school and you are tested by the literally like in front of the class, like you are scared to talk because you don't want to see like an idiot in front of your friends,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? And like this is like one of the things that like I was so like scared of all the time. Like they like call me, in front of the class, and then I have to talk, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have no clue what you are talking about. Like I like my schooling days was crazy. Like and I'm pretty smart like when it comes to like like technology and so on. Like like I haven't been really like I'm not dumb, but like I'm not the smartest also. Uh but yeah, like it's it's really interesting, like the way that the world is set it up, and I'm like really curious about why is it this way. I know certain things that it was set it up this way, like to actually like train people to be good workers, like in that industrial age, and like also like when it comes to training soldiers, so you have to listen and so on. But what do you think, like from your perspective, like where this like programming kind of like coming up from, and what do you think like people like those what are those people that most like benefiting on, if what is your idea on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of directions we could go. I think I'll start with like one, I think we have a lot of, let's call it outdated software. So like your point about
Yeah.
how you're nervous like speaking in front of the class as a kid, which is
Yeah.
so many of our experience. And so when you
Right.
think about like, well, why is that? Why is that like a weird thing? But you think about just where we've come from as a human species,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like speaking in front of a group is kind of an odd thing. Like if you were back in the, let's call it tribal days where you're living with your tribe and whatever, like speaking in front of a group probably meant like something not good for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
very like unnatural thing to do. And you can extend that into all sorts of things, like our fear response mechanisms, like are very hardwired into us, and they used to be there for very good reasons. Like you need a good fear response to be able to survive for most of human history. But nowadays, like we don't really have that much to fear. We have like social judgment. We have like looking dumb. We have all of our fears are like not actual, they're not grounded in the things that our fear response is there
Mm-hmm.
for. Like our fear response is there for survival. Because of our like tribal background, we very much like have this need and desire to be accepted by a tribe, to be like welcomed by a group of people, and so we orient our lives around like making sure we're in with the group. So I think that's just a reality that we all wrestle with.
Mm-hmm.
I think the world changes a lot. So like if I go back to my parents' example, um, I'm a millennial. I think on the older side of millennial. I don't remember the dates for what millennials are, but
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I think I'm the early uh baby no baby boomers, no, there is millennials, and then there are the other ones. Oh my gosh, what is the generate Z or something, generation
mm,
Z or
yeah,
something. I'm actually the early stage, like the first year or the last of the millennial one year, because
either.
I'm 1996. I don't know what is
Okay,
your.
I'm 85.
Yeah, 85. Yeah, so you're probably going to be like at the beginning or somewhere in the middle of
Yeah,
millennials.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like I grew up with my parents very much in the generation of like you kind of have like a single track career, you're
Yeah.
loyal to your company's loyal to you, and that worked for a long time. So it's easy for me to look back and be like that's like a broken way to do things. But the reality is it worked for decades. Like there was a lot of beauty to the reality that you could join a company and they'd treat you well and you'd stay with them for 40 years and you'd retire and have a nice retirement. You know, not all of that is bad. Because I'm an older millennial, I grew up through the transition away from that
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
you had internet comes around, social media comes around. The world fundamentally changed in a relatively short amount of time. And along with the world changing, that whole reality of like loyal companies, loyal employees,
Mm-hmm.
single track careers like fell apart at the
Yeah.
seams. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know if you remember this. You probably would have been too young at this time to pay attention to it or care. But there used to be for a long time the you could not get away from this conversation about millennials. It was in the media every single day.
Oh, really?
Oh, it
No, I
was
don't.
everywhere
Yeah.
because you had this older generation who's used to
Yeah.
the way the system previously worked well. And then you have their kids coming up, these millennials, who just thought about the world entirely differently. Like
Differently.
they
It's
would job hop, they wanted to travel the world. Um, they had access to any answer to any question they could ever pose for the first time in history. So I remember this had to be like, this was probably 2015. I used to write for a publication called the Huffington Post
uh-huh.
here in the US, and I wrote an article about, I think it was titled, Dear Millennials and the People Raising Them, Please Read This. And it was just an article on how, like, hey, here's the perspective of our parents' generation. Here's the perspective of millennials. We're no different from each other. We're just responding to the reality of the environment that we're bring, being brought up
Mm.
in. And our
Yeah,
environment was fundamentally different than the environment our parents were brought up in.
yeah, yeah.
And anyways, the article like blew up, and I ended up like going on the largest public radio show in the US and was interviewed about it. And I somehow found myself in the middle of this like millennial hot topic. Um, but that's a long-winded way to say like there's also like just cultural realities shift. Like right
Mm.
now, we're living through this transition to AI.
Yeah.
And I can even say like the technology industry that I came up in is
Hmm.
fundamentally different than what
Oh
it
yeah.
is today. And so I think every generation just adjusts to the reality around them, and they have to say, like, well, hey, what does a good life within the context of my world look like? Because
Hmm.
we can look to elders, people that have come before us for like foundational advice, foundational wisdom that transcends time and societal stuff. But in the day-to-day reality of like building a career, doing interesting things, building a career that works for us, like that's very specific to the time in which we come up in and what is directly in front of us. So like even right now, I'm wrestling with like where's the world going? How does this all play out? What's on the other side of it?
But
So
you still evolving, right? You still moving forward. Like you're not letting the like to just something happen that you may be like you may actually figure it out. No, you literally like pursuing the change, right? Because like there is more like so many people that they just like not lost the drive, but they don't even care. Like literally, like the world is changing and they do nothing about it. Like they don't care about like what like how the AI has impact, and then like they still believe like of course like AI is a tool, okay, like it's nothing like yes it's like one of the big like the best tools we've ever had I believe in like in human history, right? But it's still a tool. You need to have the skills to be able to like still build a successful business or do, like make money or so on, right? But and it can just enhance you. Like it's a leverage, right? To give you like cheap, so like cheap, quick solutions, like for really low cost, and like people I'm just laughing like when people are talking about like AI is the thing that's gonna make me millions, and I'm like holy shit bro, like get the
yeah,
fuck out of here. Like
yeah.
literally I'm like this is interesting, like yeah, but you know I'm just curious why this conversation about like millennials, baby boomers, and this type of things was even a thing. Like, why they been so thinking, like talking about it? It's like pretty much the same thing. Like, if we would be talking about like these days, like you know, millennials and Gen Z and the other gens, whatever they like call it, because it's shorter and shorter and shorter, and it seems like even like you know in the eras that where we live like or like yeah what we live in like you know there was like the technology what is it like called it was the era or like years of technology booms, and then there was like the internet, like the social media and everything that started going, and so on and so forth, right? And it's going like it's even shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. It seems like that, like we are having like this type of like eras where we live in from 10 to or 20 years. They've been long 20 years now, going to a year even, like, or half year, and literally like that's like it's so crazy to me, like how it's everything shrinking and it's so speed up and fast. So
Yeah.
how did even like why was the conversation between like baby boomers and millennials, why was that even like a thing?
Yeah. It's a good question. And I've been around long enough where I've seen it repeated. And so when I've seen it repeated, I'm like, oh, I've seen this before. And I think it is as simple as, if I go back to the millennial conversation, like back then, baby boomers were the ones leading businesses.
Okay,
They were the
I see.
executives, seniors leading businesses. And then you had millennials coming into the job market. And so they just saw in millennials like something that was fundamentally different from them. They would see
Right.
people that, maybe they were only at a job for 6 months and then they switched. Like this whole job hopping thing was a foreign concept to them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or they cared a lot about like time off and travel and all this different stuff that just like was
Mhm.
not a focus for
So they couldn't
for
like they couldn't like actually like fit it into this type of like
Yep,
cubicle that they've been shaped in, and now there is like this new type of people, humans, that actually living in this earth, and like why we are
yeah,
this way and they are this way, and this doesn't match together. So yeah,
for
I get
sure.
it.
And I see my generation doing the same thing with, call it like the 20 somethings that are coming into industry now. The amount of complaining about like this generation is so different, they use different like language, they care so much about like emotional safety and like all this different stuff that's just like somewhat foreign to an older millennial. And so you see it's cyclical. I just think it's natural, it's like human nature for us to be like, hey, the group below me looks different than us, and so I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
focus on how they're different, instead of like the more generous perspective is like every generation is shaped by the cultural reality
Mm,
around them. So what within the cultural reality of coming up during the TikTok era might change how people approach their
yeah.
careers.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Look at it, like when you think about it, I believe like this is it's really intriguing also for people to actually watch it and listen to it, right? Because like we are these people and they are these people, right? And they're like the difference is like basically polarity, right? That's how even sales works and everything like that. You are showing basically the dream outcome and the current situation. You don't want to be there. You just, if you want to be there, like there is a gap between, and so on, right? So like, and then you are like like maybe those, like, yeah, anyway, it's really interesting also, like when it comes to virality on social medias and so on, like this type of things actually like grab a lot of attention. So I think like this whole thing, it's really interesting actually
Yeah.
when it comes to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now you have the generations coming up now, their entire world is online, where
yeah.
my generation kind of like had, let's call it the first 20 some years of their life mostly offline. And
Uh-huh.
then now the past, call it 15, 20 years of our life, very online. But we have like something to compare it to. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I can empathize with a generation that comes up in the world of social media, but I've never lived it. Like, thank
Mm.
God it wasn't around when I was
Yeah.
a kid, which is something you hear from people like my age all the time. Like to have your entire life documented sounds like a nightmare as a kid when you're supposed to be like figuring out how life works and who you are as a person. And so it's, I can try to empathize with like what it might be like growing up in that world, and I have 3 kids, so they're very much going to be part of that. But I do think I do think there's very fundamentally different challenges today than there ever have been. Um, and I think that's why you see so many issues with anxiety, depression, suicide, etc. All these numbers are like up and to the right in younger generations, and I think it absolutely, at least in some very real way, is influenced by living our lives online. So I think as a culture, as a society, like we're wrestling with like, hey, how does this play
Mm,
out over the long arc of time, and what do we need to do culturally to like get to a better place? Because it's not good to be 22 and just racked with like anxiety and depression, and
mm,
you're not used to building a physical social world. Most of your social interactions happen online, oftentimes with people you don't even really know. So like, what's the human cost of like not building those real deep
yeah.
in-person connections?
Why do you think that's happening actually? Even like, why is it this way?
I don't know. I think some of it goes back to that old like tribal wiring. It's like, well, the tribe has
Right.
moved online now, so you can find a tribe within, whatever your thing is online, but you miss out on like the depth of like true friendship. Like I'm
Mm,
sure you have
yeah.
close buddies with it, like
Yeah.
they're your boys, like your best friends in the truest sense of the world, which is just fundamentally different from like,
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
no,
One
you're good.
thing. Do you know do you know what is really interesting? Like I don't know like how about you, but like I have friends now like that I can actually like kind of relate to. Like we are keeping each other accountable or accountable. I haven't got this when I've been younger. I've been like when I've been growing up, it was like I was like partying and this type of shit. I've been figuring out in the world in just probably bad environment, right? So when I figured out that this whole world is like basically set it up against us, they don't teach us how to make money and so on. I moved to England when I finished my high school exams. And I left everyone in here. I couldn't speak English. I just get into the freaking country and everything shifted. From that point, because I had to figure out everything on my own, I went to start I started literally like exploring the world, like when it comes to, like I believe that I'm gonna have more success in different country because like and specifically like when you have like better economic going countries. So like that's why I decided to go there because like the difference is there. Like literally if I would have told you that, like it's crazy. But then it still led me to the same like pretty much the same path because like I saw that even though I'm working in different country, it seems like that I'm gonna end up in the same environment and same place like if I would be in my country, just better, like I would have better life with better money because they have like they pay more, right? But so then there was like the moment that I clicked, like I have to figure it out on my own, like I literally have to build myself differently.
Hmm.
So when I start developing and start like getting people like around people that actually like have this thing on the same way as I did. And it's so interesting because like I couldn't find anybody or very limited people from Europe that they've been like publicly actually available and like literally like sharing their stuff part of the US. And my all my friends now are from US because they think differently and it's really interesting. I don't know, do
Yeah.
you like is do you have you seen that too, like in your life, or like do you have some people that you know from Europe, like that you are literally like really good buddies with, or is it like more like is it because like the way that the country, the US is set it up, or is it like because there are lots of capitalist country, right? People like
Yeah.
in US, capitalist. I think Europe is more like this freaking socialist shit that is going on here. Everybody should get the same amount of money paid and so on. Like no differences. Like government should take care of us, and this is what most of the people actually think and still believe in, which is insane to me, right? So, what do you think about this? Like this whole thing?
Yeah. I think it's definitely cultural, and I've not only heard that many times, obviously, like experienced it as well. There's something about the US that uses a baseline belief that you can do and be anything. And so,
Right.
like for the world that I came up in, technology, software, all that stuff, like, you have Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
obviously Silicon Valley is still very much kind of the heartbeat of it, but there's incredible technology companies being built all over the place. New York, Chicago, small towns in the Midwest, LA, like wherever.
Yeah.
Um, but there's very much a spirit of like you can do and be and build anything you
Is
want
that
to.
is that from your young age this way? Like, have you been like your parents passed this to you, or like it's like cultural the cultural
I think that
wise or
I think
yeah,
that culturally changed with Silicon Valley coming up like in
yeah,
the 60s and 70s and all the computer companies that came out of there. But I think that like underlying spirit has always been
right,
there. I mean, you just think about like the formation of the US, it's a bunch of people that get pissed off at England and leave and they are going to go start their own country. Like, and that's not that long ago in the long arc of time. And so like that, I think that spirit is like wired into American culture. I think it has good sides and bad sides. I think
right.
that like hyper capitalistic mindset um,
Mm-hmm.
in the wrong hands leads to a lot of bad things. Every terrible financial crime typically comes from the US. And
Well,
oh,
well, I don't like the thing is like if you think about it, like the size of US to compare to Europe is pretty like it's insane. Um, Also, it's very interesting that all the news that are coming up to Europe are literally from US most of the time, right? I don't know. It's like why is it this way? Because like on the in the world like in the second world war of world or what is it
World
called?
War.
But yeah, um, we've been saved or whatever it's the word by like halfway US and halfway Russian. But we have never heard any stories, any news. We have nothing to see from Russia side, like at all, like none,
Yeah.
right? Which
Yeah.
is very interesting.
Yeah.
And then
I mean,
all the news coming from US and everybody like, and I believe that Russia is probably even worse in killing than actually US.
sure.
Because in Russia there is like way more like crazy people. I believe like when I see the videos sometimes from on YouTube, like what those people are doing there, like and like how they, I don't know, like how the nature in US like in with drinking and so on, but Russians are different beasts. Um, but yeah, like what do you think about that actually?
Um, I don't know. I think if I stick with kind of the business side of things, economic side of things, I think there's a structural component to this too, where, and I don't know other countries' policies at all.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But I know in the US, for the most part in the US, our policies try to make it as easy as possible to start something, raise capital,
yeah.
etc. And so like we don't get in the way of ourselves. Like our government doesn't get in the way of you being an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
You can start. It's super easy to start a company. There's an endless amount of capital resources. Um, and so I think there's this like structural component that I don't think you find in a lot of places. I know there's plenty of
True.
countries where like policy is going to hold back entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
Um, and there's going to be like things that just simply make it more difficult for someone to go build something meaningful. That's why,
yeah,
you see so many founders, like say from Europe, move to the US
yeah,
to build their companies. Um, I think part of it is like they're going to have an easier time building it in the US. I think part of it is like they're going to have a lot of ambitious talent that they know
mm,
exists here. Not that it doesn't exist other places, but it might be harder to find. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. I've worked a lot internationally. I've led teams in France. I've led teams in, Brazil, India,
Yeah.
APAC. And there is very much like I think like when I'm dealing internationally, business wise, most of them adopt like US business culture. Like
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I think they very much like lean on US business culture as like a default. Um,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
I even believe that, at least like in my observation, that most of the biggest firms are coming from US.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that, like McDonald's, for example, like this is crazy huge one. For example, like one of the biggest ones usually, like, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's I don't know how much time we have still here. Okay. Well, let's go back to the topic of, when it comes to, you said you have 3 kids. Um and what did you teach them, like, differently from what you've been taught as a kid,
Mm,
to be prepared, or like, I don't know how else to express it,
yeah.
better way to for this world and this whole time changing world so fast and so on.
Yeah. That's a good question. So for context, my kids are um 11, 9, and 6. What the At those ages, anything I'm trying to like reflect to them, teach them, oftentimes is going to be not big stuff about the world, but like internal stuff,
Yeah.
like helping them feel their feelings and know that that's okay to feel those feelings and move through them. Like stuff that like you just need to teach kids, like how to regulate, how to like it's okay to feel heavy feelings, it's okay to be sad, angry, whatever. And then there's like the foundational stuff uh, that never ages, like the value of hard work, the value of like you're gonna like for instance, my son just had soccer tryouts. He didn't make the team he wanted. He stayed on the same team he's at. He wanted to move up a notch. Didn't happen. So there's a very real conversation there of like, um, how do you process that? How do you think about it? How do you move forward with it? And how do you not let it like defeat you, but instead like let it fuel you? So there's like that foundational stuff
Mm-hmm.
that will always be there. Um, then there's like the bigger picture context of the world. Like for most of their lives, I would have um, been pushing them towards like computer programming, learning how to become a software engineer, these skills that like will pay dividends no matter what. And now I think that narrative changes a lot. I think if you fast forward to when they're in the working world, like software engineering skills probably aren't going to be valued like they are today. There's going to be a lot of people that are really, really great at working with AI, building with AI, but like it's a very different skill set from just like traditional software engineering, the ability to write code, etc. Um, so that like task as a parent for where is the world moving and how do I prepare my kids for it,
Mm-hmm.
I think is more confusing now than at any point in history. Because if you look
Yeah.
at the way technology evolves, we're at this like super sharp point on the curve where it's just going to evolve exponentially faster. It's just the nature of technological change. And so it becomes, whereas before, like you would have kind of step function improvements in technology, but you could
Yep.
see the path. Now, no, I don't think anyone sees the path. We don't even know how these LLMs work. Like the people building them don't even know how they work.
Mm-hmm.
And so to understand where the world is headed, I think is a tall order. And that's where, you just default back to like, okay, well, teaching the value of hard work, teaching the value of like mindset, teaching the value of like uh, just being a good person, like because I can't predict where the world is going. Um, there's part of me that wrestles a lot with, because their world is online, they're coming up in a world that is online. There's this tension as a parent that I think probably most parents wrestle with, which is like, how much is okay and how much is not enough, or is too much. Whereas, so as an example, like my son loves Minecraft and Fortnite, and he'd probably play them for 8 hours a day if I let him. Which I get. I grew up playing video games and I was obsessed with video games. Um, and but like today's world is very different. There's the world of streaming. There's like there's an entire ecosystem surrounding like gaming.
Yep.
And so you just wrestle with these, like, okay, well, he's growing, he's changing, he's all this stuff has real implications on like his own brain, his own development, his own mindset. So like figuring out like, how do I let him be in love with this stuff and not view it as a bad thing and not like come down on him for it, while also not letting it like take over his world? How do I build curiosity in my kids? I don't know. It's hard. Being a parent today
These days, yeah, it's
is unique.
I can imagine, yeah. This is
And
like yeah, I see it from my girlfriend's view because she has a younger brother, and, like he's also like all the time on computer wise and so on, and like what they're teaching them in the school, it's freaking crazy. And but I've been also like I've been playing games quite a bit, not at the beginning of my childhood, because like we've been just that broke that we couldn't even afford freaking computer right at the time. But then like when I get older and I get the resources because I started working and get some type of like income coming, I've been trying to like basically get those experiences that I couldn't have in when I was kids. But then like yeah, it's really interesting what it's actually like. The whole gaming industry is pretty wild, and it's very interesting that how it can survive so much, because like if you think those clients of theirs basically are kids most of the time, right?
mhm,
Like, and the kids, they don't have really money. Like parents, they have money, so the kid has to be like so convincing that literally, or like know how to sell basically to their parents to
yeah,
actually buy those things, right?
yeah,
Which is really interesting, right? And when we're going towards that, like towards sales and so on, because like you've been mentioning also that you basically are a sales coach, are you?
yeah,
Right?
yeah. I
How
coach
did
a lot
you
of
okay?
sales leaders.
How do you get into like sales? Because like this is, I believe, one of the most important skills to actually even like develop and still like enhancing as much as you can, because like without sales,
Yeah,
basically there is nothing, like literally is the communication style to raise money for pretty much anything or get. It's like yeah, it's so crucial in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah. I love sales as a skill, and I think it's one of the things that like will always be of value. I
100%, yeah.
I fell into it like a lot the way a lot of salespeople do, which is like I didn't really have any other options. Like I went to college, I studied hospitality, so like hotel stuff,
Yep.
and got out of college, and like, what do you do? Well, what can you do with like a normal degree? You can go sell stuff, and so I got into sales early in my career. What set me on the path of tech sales, I got a job at a startup in Boulder, Colorado. Um, I got paid virtually nothing. Um,
Was it cold calls or door to door, or what you were doing?
this was all, we sold all via email.
Oh,
Um,
really
yeah,
interesting.
I had done, I had, I had done sales roles before that that were like
Yeah.
pure cold calling,
Uh-huh.
but my first job in tech, was with a startup. They were like pre-revenue, so they didn't really have any revenue. They raised a final round of funding to basically like take one last shot at the business. So they raised a round of funding. They pivoted the product um, to something different, and they hired me and I think three other people as like sellers to go sell this new product.
Uh-huh.
And for me, it was very much like right time, right place, mixed with hard work and like a curious mindset, willingness to learn. We took that, we grew that business from no revenue to 30 million in ARR within like 8 months. And then the company was acquired for $100 million. And so I had this very early, very formative experience in sales where I my salary was like basic, it was pennies basically. I think I was making, my salary was $24,000 a year, which for the US at that time was very low. But once we started finding success, we like cracked the code of selling this product. You know, I was making like 30 some $1,000s a month as like a 24-year-old or however old I
Yeah,
was.
that's a pretty
Um,
good start, right? Like, holy smokes.
Yeah, but it
Yeah,
was almost entirely luck, coupled with like just having the right mindset to figure it out. Because we very much like had to figure out, you know, we were like all 20 somethings like trying to figure out
yeah,
how to take this product to market, and it happened to work. Um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so that was my first experience, obviously a formative one, but that's what set me on the path of like I'm going to be in tech for the rest of my career. I love this space. I fell in love with tech because of the people really. Tech just inherently attracts like entrepreneurial types, people that want to like live life a bit differently. Um, like tech is almost a filter for interesting people.
Mm, mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so that kind of set me on that path, and I've been leading sales teams in tech ever since. And so that was, you know, 16, 17 years ago.
That's really cool. And you keep still like, helping people with sales also and so on. Like, yeah,
Yeah, so these days I coach 20 something sales leaders at all sorts of different companies, whether that's like uh, Anthropic, Google, Brex, a lot of these kind of big name kind of staples in tech. And the reason I got into coaching was not because I love sales so much that I wanted to coach sales leaders. It's because as a leader in tech, as a sales leader, I understood like one, how hard the job is, how
yeah,
much stress there is, pressure there is. You're working constantly. It's just hard. It's hard being a
yeah,
sales leader in tech. And I knew the world intimately, and I wanted to help those folks. Like there's so many times in my career where I would have benefited from having a coach that like understood the world that I lived in. Um, and so that's why I got into coaching coming up on I'm like 4.5 years into coaching. So it's been a lot of fun. I love coaching.
So what is from all of those opportunities or the ways that you've been basically pursuing success, with tech, writing, fitness, and all of that, like what would be the most fulfilling for you that you actually like found for yourself that it was like, oh my gosh, that's like this is the thing that I would be able to imagine to do for the rest of my life, for example. So
Yeah, writing for sure.
writing,
Writing is the most challenging of those three to like, you know, build a career in. But you know, there's like that mostly unhelpful question of like, uh, what would you do every day if like you didn't have to worry about the money? Like, and for me, the answer to that question is writing. And so thankfully, writing is something where like I don't have to build a career around it. I can do it in addition to whatever else I'm doing.
yeah.
Um, but writing to me is like, there's a few reasons why. One, writing, I think, is the greatest forcing function possible for articulating your ideas in a clear way.
Hmm.
Like when we think
It
about,
can even help with presentations, right? Because you're putting the ideas into basically place, and then like when you are actually presenting, who does yeah, yeah, this is really cool.
yeah, And so it's like the forcing function for clarity of thought. And I'm somebody that lives in my head more than I like to admit. And so it, writing is an outlet for me to get out of my head. Um, but two, like it's something that scales. Like I'm a big believer in having as positive of an impact on the people around you as you can. And writing is
Hmm.
something where I can write a piece and 10,000 people can read it, and maybe 10 of those people are like deeply impacted by it and
Mm.
moved. I've written 2 books. My second book, it's called Redwood, A Guide to Leading a Remarkable Life. And so it's a lot about just like personal development type topics. But,
Hmm.
the number of stories I've heard of people like that read the book and then changed something significant in their life. They moved cities, they started adopting new friend groups, that like whatever the thing is, you're like, oh, I put words on paper and it positively impacted the trajectory of someone's life. And to me, like, there's nothing more fulfilling than that.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. So you wrote 2 books. I didn't even know that. What are those books, if I may ask?
The first book was called The Guy at the Bar, and the
Uh-huh.
subtitle is Notes from a Father That Lost a Lot but Gained a Little. And our first son passed away 2 days after he was born. So
Wow.
that book was very much about like kind of the grief process and how do you come out on the other side of something really hard, better than you came into it. How do you let it
Mm.
shape you into something better? Um, so that was my
What what
first book.
what happened, if I may ask?
Um, he was born with a genetic condition that was not survivable, and we didn't know he had it until after he was born. So
Mm.
he was born premature. He was born early, um, and he passed away 2 days after he was born. So,
Wow.
um, and that was on the
I'm
other
sorry
side
about
of.
that. Yeah.
No, that's okay. It's part of my story. So that book came out of like I had to write that. Like I didn't intend to write a book. I was actually in the middle of writing a different book with a publisher. I was writing a fitness book, and um, when he passed away, I just reached out to my publisher and I was like, I can't write a book on fitness right now. Like I'm in
Hmm.
hell. And so I just started writing about the grief process, and anyways, it became a book. And then my second book was Redwood, A Guide to Leading a Remarkable Life. And that's just like general personal development.
Hmm.
It's about like our external environment, our internal environment, mindset,
Right.
all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So you are deep into these topics also, like, um,
Oh,
the
yes.
conditioning and so on. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, this is awesome. I believe, like, when it comes to writing books and so on, like it's literally like how you can leave your legacy, forever. Something that like never going to disappear, right? It's like an asset that literally like lives there, for people, for other people, for you, and yeah, this is really cool. I love that, and not in a stage to write a book, but maybe in the future or so. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's see.
Both of
Yeah,
my books I had to write, and I haven't written one since, which is telling. But sometimes a book you just have to get out of your brain, or you have like a
yeah,
topic that you can't like set down.
yeah,
And to me, when things keep coming back to you, that's like the universe being like, hey, are you going to do something with this? Because if not, we'll find somebody else to channel this into. But this idea needs to
right.
get out there.
Yeah. So I'm just like last couple of questions before I let you go. When it comes to your, like, why did you decided to go for fitness? Is there some type of passion that you had? Like, have you been like fit, like, fit, like sport junkie type of person, like since you've been born, like, since, and you love sport also, like doing it something on the side of the business also, like what is fulfilling you outside of the business also?
Yeah. Fitness has been core to my world since I was like 16. Um,
Right.
so it was always something I loved. But what got me to start Bodeefit was um, I was deeply involved in like the CrossFit world at the time.
All right. Mm-hmm.
And the CrossFit community was just this like amazing place where I had seen so many people walk into the gym and their lives be transformed by it. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
watched like 60-year-old diabetics come in and completely reverse the trajectory of their health span.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing with CrossFit that I observed was it can be a very intimidating space. Like a lot of people, for whatever reason, they're just not gonna either have the courage, have the will, whatever it might be, to
Yeah.
walk into a gym and change their life. I, CrossFit has this concept of like a workout of the day, a WOD. And back then, this was before like fitness apps were a big thing.
Are you still doing a gym? Like, are you still going to the gym?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I go to a powerlifting gym by my house called
Yeah. Yeah.
Strong Bodies, and it's all literally all like professional power lifters. They're
Yeah.
monsters.
Yeah.
I'm the weakest person in the gym, which is great. That's the environment I want to be in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, with CrossFit, I was like, how do I make this more accessible to the people who are not going to walk into a gym for whatever reason? So I
Mm.
started an app that had a workout of the day, and it was all workouts you could do at home with minimal
Mm.
equipment or no equipment.
Mhm.
Um, and it struck a chord for whatever reason. It became very popular very quickly. It ended up being the top app on the Microsoft App Store. It was nominated for Mobile App of the Year. Um, and I think more than anything, like we were early to the space. There wasn't a lot of fitness apps, so that helped. But also, I think it tapped into the need that I saw, which was like people want to turn their health around, but you have to remove the barriers that are in between them and doing that, whether that's like the cost of a gym or the courage to go into a gym. And so my goal was just like make fitness as easily accessible for people as possible. And so that's
Mm.
what that business was. And it evolved. We ended up having kettlebell programs and fitness retreats and all sorts of stuff. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. So where is when it comes to uh you know the future for like what you can like imagine, um what does it look like for you? Like where are you heading with the business and also like personal side
Yeah.
towards? Yeah.
Continuing to grow my coaching business. A lot of the things that I think about are like, what do I want my coaching business to look like? Because right now, most of my coaching is one-on-one on like virtual like this.
Yep.
But I have a desire to get retreats going again. Like when I was running fitness retreats with Bodeefit, it was some of the most fun I've ever had. I would love to do like leadership retreats with companies. Um, so very much in the middle of kind of thinking about where do I evolve my coaching business. I'll continue writing. I write a lot. I have a Substack, which is just adamgriffin.substack.com. So I write a lot there. That's my main writing outlet these days. And yeah, that's where my head is at now. And then personally, it's very much just about the kiddos and being there for them and helping them grow into the people that they want to become. So that's my world.
Love it. Love it. All right. So, last few questions. There's the rapid fire. When it comes to like one book that you would recommend to, somebody who wants to, for example, get better at sales, what that would be?
Get better at sales specifically?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Probably, honestly, probably Radical Candor. There's a lot of sales books out there. But the older I've gotten, the more I've realized like sales is just communication. Can you
Yeah.
communicate with a human? Can you build trust?
Have you read The Pitch Anything from Oren
I
Clough?
have. Yep, I've got
It's
it
so good. Yeah,
upstairs.
so
Yeah.
good. Holy
Yeah.
smokes. Um, or even the Flip the Script. That's literally like next level of that. But there is bunch like how to make friends and influence people. It's so like like that's so like it's just the fundamental principles basically, or like even there is a bunch, but yeah. So once again, what was the one that you said? Because I think I have never read it actually.
Yeah, it's not about sales specifically, but
Uh-huh.
it's called Radical Candor, and it's about just the skill set of using candor in your day-to-day communication. So how can you be direct but kind? I love that book because it's very relevant to sales, but it's very
Uh-huh.
relevant to communication generally, whether that's like
Yeah.
relationships, your friends, your bosses. Like, um, candor is so many of us are indirect in our communication. We beat around the bush. We don't ask the hard question. We avoid the hard conversation. And it's like so much of our growth as humans is on the other side of a hard conversation. So that's why I love that book.
Awesome. Okay. If there would be one advice that you would like to delete from the internet, what that would be?
Probably like the hustle culture. I think it,
Yeah.
like right now in tech, there's this concept of 996, which is just like a recycled version of like work constantly. Um, I don't know. I think we're, especially in today's very online world, we are really good at mistaking movement for productivity. Like we will
Mm,
do a bunch of crap and it'll be scattershot. And I'm a big believer in hard work, but this hustle culture, I I do not love at all.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's a path to, we're humans, we're very complex. Like we need relationships, we need to understand ourselves. Not everything is solved by just gritting your teeth and working harder.
Right, right. Yeah, I love that. Very interesting because like yeah, when you think about it, yeah, there's like people rather like yeah, people do stuff that doesn't move the needle and calling it progress. So it's like yeah, there is a but the thing is also that is overload of the informations, right? People like oh my gosh, that person said this and that person said that and so on. Like it's designed the weird way, so it like confusing lots of people also. But if you know what you're doing in business, you literally there is no way you can fail anyway.
Yeah.
And last question, when if that would be your last interview you would ever done, what would be the message that you would love to leave behind?
It would be that love is at the bottom of it all,
Mm,
meaning, uh, look at any religion, any philosophy.
mm-hmm,
Um, love is like at the center of it all. And that sounds like
mm,
fluffy, but I think people know what I mean when you can pause and look at your own life. The things that you do that come from a place of love, whether that's your work, your relationships, your conversations, if they are coming from a place of love, like that is the thing that matters. Um, that would probably be the one thing that I think we would all be better
well,
off
thank you
if
so
we
much.
really internalize. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. It was a great literally great time with you. Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Appreciate you. Thanks for the
Totally.
conversation.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, and for everybody who's listening, we will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.